Hey guys, how's it going? It is April 17th, 5 past 10 on a Wednesday night. Hopefully everybody enjoyed WrestleMania. I did record a video right after WrestleMania. For whatever reason, I had issues uploading that video. Um, I tried to re-record it, uploaded that one, and that one had an issue getting up. So hopefully this one will go through. Um, I'm not going to go into like a full detail of what I thought of WrestleMania like I did with the first video. I mean, WrestleMania has now passed. The hype is sort of gone. So I think to kind of rehash everything for detail is probably a little bit of a waste. But just kind of like where I see things going. Some of the CM Punk controversy with the video that AEW released. Obviously, unfortunately, what happened with Rhea Ripley this past Monday, and just where it seems like things are going as they're hyping the Triple H era. So, just a couple of things on WrestleMania. Everybody's calling it the greatest of all time, or whatever, the best WrestleMania ever. I am probably not going to go that far to say that. I can see why people are saying that, but if you're going to make a WrestleMania like the greatest or whatever, then the whole show has to be, amazing. And I felt that night two was way better than night one. I thought a lot of the matches on night one were very lackluster and just, frankly, matches that we could just see on SmackDown or Raw. I really didn't think there was anything too great about it. I probably should have my phone up here because I know there's like one or two matches that were really good. I think the tag match was on night one. So the tag match with the ladders for the tag titles, that was entertaining. I thought that was a good match. Kudos to R-Truth for getting his moment. I thought that was a bit of a unique way to split the belts. I really didn't think that's what they were doing. That one team grabbed one set, another team grabbed another. So that was very good, a good way to separate the titles. And I thought the tag match was probably the next best thing with The Rock, Roman, Seth, and Cody. I mean, was it it started off a little slow. I think that was the problem. It started off a little slow, but I thought it was a good story. I think it was pretty obvious that I predicted that team was going to win. Sorry, that's my dogs running up and down like crazy people. I think it was pretty obvious that they were going to win. They stacked the deck against Cody, and for that to allow the assist that Cody got from the Legends on Sunday night. I thought that was a very nice touch with Cena, Cena and Roman. Cena and Taker coming. Obviously Seth coming in as the Shield. Now it would have been pretty badass. And for a second, I believed it. I may have been the only person to think this. I might be an idiot for thinking this. But when they played the Shield music, I'm like, did they make a call? And did they get Jon Moxley to come out with Seth? I mean, if that had happened, I would have lost my fucking mind because that would have been awesome. Like, holy shit, you gotta be kidding me. But for a second I thought that because Seth took so freaking long, no pun intended, to get into the ring, I'm like, are they gonna like try to give us some kind of surprise that they got Moxley to come and we're gonna see, Dean Ambrose back. So that didn't happen. But it was great to see Taker. I felt that spot that Taker was in was much better for Stone Cold when it first happened. Later now we come to find out that was the case, that it was supposed to be Stone Cold's spot, and he did not take it because the rumors he didn't take it because they couldn't come to terms on the pay. And, that's not the first time we've heard that regarding Stone Cold, that they've wanted him for something and they couldn't come to agreement on the money. And I will say this, if this is true, shame on Stone Cold. Because Stone Cold, this is not 1999, 97, 2000. This is not peak Stone Cold era. Your time is way gone. So to sit here and try to command this ridiculous sum of money to come and do something that literally probably would have taken you 60 seconds, drive the ATV down, hit a stunner, grab a couple of beers, and leave. I mean, I don't know how much he wanted. We don't know that. Again, this is all just rumor. But, I tend to lean towards believing it because, again, it's not the first time we've heard that when it comes to Stone Cold not showing up because he's not happy with the money. I'm not saying he should be undercut severely, but if he is looking for money that he would normally have gotten, being a top talent, it's ridiculous because you're not, And clearly, we've had plenty of good moments that he wasn't there, so it's not like it's like, oh my God, we gotta bend over backwards, give Steve what he wants. No, and I just think that's unfortunate that he's letting money, rob a memory-making moment for the fans. And if Cena can show up, if Taker can show up, I'm sure if they wanted to get Foley or whatever, I'm sure he would have been happy to show up. And just the fact that you're letting dollar signs get in the way. Again, I'm not saying don't go for what you're worth, but you have to be within reason and realize this is not your time. This is not your era anymore. But Cody finally did finish the story. I thought the Gunther and Sami Zayn match was very good. Again, I would have preferred Sami lose because I think Sami is above the Intercontinental title and United States title right now. The United States Championship match I thought was a pretty good match as well. Damien Priest cashed in. I kind of feel like there was a bit of a lost opportunity that he could have either cashed in on Cody, but obviously now seeing the past, this past week, we see why that didn't happen. But I still think they lost the moment of that irony of cashing in on Seth as opposed to Drew McIntyre. And I know why they did it. Obviously it was to put more heat on the storyline between Drew and Punk, that because of Punk, he was vulnerable to be cashed in on. But I just think that irony was there. You didn't take the big moment of him robbing Cody, but I think there was still a moment there that they could have did with Seth and Damien as opposed to Drew and CM Punk. So that was just my take on that. And sort of moving away from WrestleMania just a tad, everything else on WrestleMania, like I said, was just, whatever. The Usos match was very underwhelming. Think back to when Dustin wanted to do the match with Cody at WrestleMania. And I don't recall the year. It might have been 2017, maybe 2018. But they ended up having the match in February at Elimination Chamber instead. Watch that match, and that's what the Usos match reminded me of. Not as bad, but just how just kind of boring it was. LA Knight, AJ Styles, I think that match was pretty much obvious who was going to come out on that, but that was a pretty good match as well. So I would say overall WrestleMania 40 was a good event. I think Night 2 was definitely the better of the two. And, it might have been just... It might have just been how they organized the matches, maybe. I'm not quite sure. As far as the match, I can't remember what match it was, but I can't remember the match. But I think they have, I can't remember, and I had said in the first video that I forgot whose match it was that didn't come off as good as it should have been because of the match that they had to follow. It was a pretty hot match they followed. And I think that if they didn't do that other one, and I'm sorry I can't remember the order of the match at this point. But like I said, overall, WrestleMania 40 I don't think was horrible. They ended, Roman Reigns' reign as champion. His reign probably could have gone another year, but I think it might have been exhausting if it did for the fans, because how do you keep it fresh? They're doing something, trying to do something fresh now, but I think with him as the champion, it probably would have taken away. And also, if you think about it, and now they're sort of transition out of WrestleMania, they're putting this emphasis on the new era. And in a way, it sort of is, because you just had this long title reign end. You just had the title with Seth Rollins end. And the reason why I think it puts more emphasis on the whole end of an era thing is because Roman Reigns' title started with Vince at the helm. Seth Rollins began, I believe, Vince was still at the helm. Or he had left, but I believe he kind of got his way back in, I believe. But now he's like fully gone. This was like the first WrestleMania without him, without his imprint on it. Yes, Stephanie showed up, and you might say, well, McMahon was still there, so there was really any kind of separation. I think if you're looking at it that way, you're digging too deep into it. But this was the first WrestleMania without it. So kind of like forging ahead. Okay, we're going to end Roman. We're going to slap this back. We're going to slap this thing on Cody. We're taking it off of Seth. Seth is going to go away for a while. We're going to start with Damien. So it really is the beginning of a new era. The question is, how exciting, how entertaining is it going to be? Are the fans going to stick with Cody? Bruce Pritchard always said, it's better when the babyface chases. And it's hard to keep the storyline going once the babyface gets the title. There hasn't been a whole lot of people as faces who've had the best title runs. Not saying it had never happened, but it's hard. And I think one of the issues that I think that they did, and Triple H did this on Monday when he introduced Cody for the first time as champion. This is the person who's going to lead us into that new era. And you're giving all this hype to Cody as the new champion. First of all, it seems like they're changing the name of the title. It seems like it's no longer the Universal Championship anymore. It seems like they're going back to WWE Championship. Was that a Vince thing? Universal? And now they're trying to go back to the old way? Who knows? But the way he did that and introduced him, and especially he did it on Raw, and at least for now, I know the draft hasn't happened yet, but you have to believe that Cody is the champion. He's going to be on SmackDown, and Damien's going to be on Raw. At least that's what it appears is going to happen. And sticking with that, you're continuing to downplay the significance of your world title. Because the storyline with The Rock and all of them, and which we then found out later, which is something that I had commented on, that the way they had made that pivot from it being Rock and Roman to the backlash that they got, this is why we got the tag match, because they had to change it because the fans weren't feeling this because of how bad it made Cody look. So they pivoted and switched to the tag title and gave Roman and gave Cody, put him back in the picture for the championship. But another issue with this storyline is you made Seth look bad. You made Seth look weak, and you made Seth look stupid. He had the match, the Monday before WrestleMania. Now he's having the tag match at WrestleMania. They have to defend his title next one. They didn't really make him look like the smartest champion. Now, I know the backstory is like, well, we have to take down the evil emperor. But, for somebody who loves and cherishes, your championship, you're okay with sacrificing it like that? It just didn't come off well for Seth. And now, on supposedly Damien's show, you're making the big deal of the new WWE Undisputed Champion on my show? And I'm just like, you're further diminishing the importance of this belt. That's why it just made no sense, to create that title. Because it's playing second fiddle to WWE Championship. You should just have one championship, and just like they did back in 2000 when they first did the whole split, was that the champion could be on both shows. That's what they should have did. Each show had their own tag champions, which, calling the Raw Tag Team Champions the World Tag Team Champions is nothing different, because that's what they did back in 2002. 2002 or 2003. 2002, because Stephanie was the general manager and she introduced the and they had the WWE Tag Team Championships on SmackDown. So they're just going back to something they did before. So Raw had the World Tag Team Champions, SmackDown the WWE Championship. Then Raw had the Intercontinental title, and SmackDown had the United States title. And then the Women's Champion and the WWE Champion were the only two championships that could go back and forth on both shows. That was it. And I think that's what you might as well just keep doing, because how does this make Damien look? Then Damien finally comes out later in the show. He has a minimal celebration, and then you kind of stick him back into the comedy thing when R-Truth shows up. So now, I just don't see how we're supposed to take Damien as a serious champion when you are just constantly pushing that title to the side. It's almost like becoming the European Championship back in the late 90s when they created that, because they didn't have the United States title back then. So the European title was sort of like the United States title, to have another belt for everybody to compete with, but it was more for the lower tier guys who were on the card. So you had your Intercontinental title, and then below that, you had the European title, and you just had nothing. And that's kind of what you had like the world title for. Oh, well, we had Roman, booked up with it for so long. We're just going to create one, just give it to somebody else so we can have some, so AJ can get a potential run. So Drew can get his run. So The Miz maybe will get a run. So everybody can just kind of get their run at this title, but it's not really that significant. Because now, don't think for a second that Cody is losing that title anytime soon. I can guarantee that Cody is going to be champion going into WrestleMania 41. He's going to be a champion for a year, because they're not going to go through all this 2-year story arc just to take the title off of him a couple of months from now. No freaking way. Now, who's the one that takes the title from him? No freaking clue. No idea how that's going to happen. Not even sure who they're going to feed to him right now, which is probably why we're having the draft, because he's going to be on SmackDown. Now, unless they're going to switch the Judgment Day and him and bring Cody to Raw and bring the world title to SmackDown, fine. But I would think that Gunther might get sent to SmackDown, so he could be a challenger for him. I could see LA Knight going to Raw, and then he could be somebody for Damien Priest. I could see Bronson Reed probably going, potentially could challenge Cody. They got Jey Uso right now, who's going to be the number one contender for Damien Priest. With Rhea Ripley gone now, do they feel like they can break up the Judgment Day and have, Finn go to SmackDown? Not quite sure. But I think if you know for sure, if your champions are staying on their respective shows, I think it's a little bit easier to see where the roster move is going to go. Are they going to put Randy back to Raw? Logan Paul is probably going to stay on SmackDown. Are they going to leave Kevin Owens there? Are they going to move AJ Styles away? Are they going to send Jey Uso back to SmackDown? Are they going to bring Jimmy over? Because I kind of feel like somehow Jay is going to get sucked back into the Bloodline storyline. And looks like that's becoming something interesting. I'm going to get to that in a second, but it's just the world title just seems so insignificant. And I just feel like Triple H, the Monday after WrestleMania, just kind of put a bow on that when, you pretty much, that whole thing took almost 45 minutes that you're spending it on him. And I get it. But again, that should have happened on SmackDown. That should not have happened on Raw. That should not have happened. A complete diminution. If you were going to do it, maybe not start the show off that way. Maybe not give him that kind of introduction. Maybe have him come, but then Damien comes and interrupts him. Something to put that title on the map. And I'm telling you, it's a second tier title. The importance of it is not there. And the storyline with The Rock and them just further diminished it. And Triple H just put that stamp on it on Monday with that whole thing that they did with Cody. That whole entire thing. that was just a mistake. And, you know, your women's championship has been around much longer than the women's world heavyweight title. But Rhea made that title, which is funny, the opposite, made that title feel more important than the women's title, because that title with Io Sky was irrelevant. It meant nothing. And I'm not saying that all these title reigns have to be a year or a year and a half to be made to be important. You know, we can understand why they had Seth and Rhea hold their titles for so long. But I just feel like in the case of Seth, you built all that work up. Like, he was defending it and all that stuff. You built it all up, and in the end, to make him look stupid and weak. And then just to go a step more with Damien as the champion, putting Cody over him. So that's my thoughts on that. You know, I'm happy Damien won, because, you know, when Damien first came up to the main roster, I'm like, what are they going to do with this guy? Like, he just felt like he didn't fit. But damn it, he made himself fucking fit. He sure as hell did. And I like Damien Priest. I like watching him in the ring. I like him on the mic. You know, he's from I'm from the Bronx. He's from the Bronx. Obviously I don't know him, but I am happy that he has his moment, or he had his moment. But I just hope that he could just make it much more significant. Are they going to lead to this, to do the breakup of the Judgment Day? You know, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be the way that the New Day was, which it kind of sounds like Big E is not going to ever come back to wrestling. As he said, he may never be cleared. But, you know, he's even spoke of, if he is cleared, I think he's, 37, 38 years old, you know, the quality of life he wants to have in the future. You know, I'm sure he's made some good money, that he feels like he doesn't have to risk himself coming back. But, you know, it's unfortunate that his career appears to be cut short, because even if he does by miracle get cleared within another year or so, I would be very surprised if he comes back to wrestle. And it sounds like he won't be able to, so that is unfortunate. But with that said, the New Day has run its course, and it probably is best for him to separate. But what are they going to do with them? You know, I mean, you know, Cody has had the most success as a singles person. You know, Xavier Woods, I think, might get lost. They tried to give him a run with the King of the Ring, but for some reason that went belly up. But I don't know if they're going to separate the Judgment Day or not. I do feel like the Judgment Day has a little more run left in them. I would kind of like them to be a bit more... I would like them to kind of go back to their dominant ways. You know, they kind of be made to look stupid and made to be a joke. And I think they're losing matches that they really shouldn't be losing. You know, and then I get, you know, obviously you can't stay the same, you know, all the time. But, you know, if you were trying to make them equal to that of the Bloodline just on Raw, you know, Dom should be winning more. JD should be winning more. I get the comedy aspect with R-Truth. But I think that if they're going to try to stretch the Judgment Day, let's say another 6 months, 6 to 8 months, I think you just kind of got to switch gears a little bit. And yes, they had a dominant run, tag champs, they did. But I just think there's just a little bit of something missing there. I'm just not quite sure what, but I think they're missing a little something there. As far as, like, you know, before I get to the draft, so about the Bloodline story that we saw, you know, the newest member, Haku's son, and then, you know, he says to Paul, by orders of the tribal chief. So, you know, very intriguing what they're doing with the Bloodline storyline, which, you know, has going into its third year in August, I believe, because Roman won the title, I believe, 3 years ago at SummerSlam, when it was Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman wrestling the match. Interesting if it's Solo that he was referring to as the tribal chief, or is it The Rock? But, by the way, before I even get into that, that whole thing with The Rock and Cody on Monday, after he won, the crowd was chanting, "This is awkward," and damn it sure was awkward. I'm not going to say that The Rock lost his promo mojo, but his promos take way too long. I think he's like shooting off the cuff a little bit, because if you notice, he tends to repeat himself a lot. Or like he kind of loses his spot. I don't know. It just seems a little bit off. But that promo, I just didn't get it. But it is clear that they're going to have a match sometime down the road. So everybody's been clamoring for Roman versus Rock. Now I'm kind of like, well, how are we going to get that now? I think I can see how this is going to happen. Could be wrong, and this could probably not happen for another year, but I think this is how we get to it. Roman at some point is going to get kicked out of the bloodline. And I think this whole time, we're going to be made to believe that it's Solo who's the new tribal chief, when in fact, it's really The Rock. I think The Rock, I think the new bloodline will be The Rock, Solo, I can't pronounce his name, but Haku's son. I feel like they're going to add a female, because they need a female. I think they're going to add a female in there. And I think in the beginning what's going to happen is the Usos are going to team up again. Maybe not stay tag team permanently, but I do think the Usos will team up to take on Solo and Haku's son. I do think that's going to happen at some point. I think we're going to be led to believe that the tribal chief, even though they're saying it's Roman, they're going to make us believe that it's, because supposedly Roman's supposed to be gone for a while. They're going to make us think it's Solo, but it's really The Rock. So that obviously The Rock reveals himself, whatever, Roman comes back, does this whole big thing. Solo's like, yeah, you're not tribal chief anymore. You're not who I was talking about. I'm not tribal chief. That's not who I was talking about. Out comes The Rock. They kick him out because he lost the match. Rock is the new lead of the bloodline. Rock goes on to challenge Cody. Maybe somewhere along the line they take Roman out. Rock goes on and challenges Cody. Roman will come back during that match, cost The Rock the title, and then that's how we'll get Rock versus Roman. So I think we're going to get Rock and Cody first, and then we'll get Rock and Roman. And I think Roman will be the babyface, and The Rock is going to be the heel. That's how I think it's going to happen. Are they going to try to get this to WrestleMania 41? See, I don't know what the plan is. I don't know if the plan is Rock and Cody WrestleMania 41, Rock and Roman WrestleMania 42. I don't know if they can stretch it that long. I don't know what they're going to do. We shall see. But that's how I'm looking at it, that Roman is going to get kicked out of the bloodline because he lost. I think Jay may reunite with Jimmy because of what happened to him. Now, officially, has Jimmy been kicked out? We don't know that official. This could just been a punishment. So we don't know if he's out or not. We don't. But let's just say he is out. He's going to need some help to take this out. And I think we'll probably see a couple of weeks, if not a couple of months, of him trying to get Jay to help him. And Jay may come back on his own feeling bad. So I think we need to watch what happens with the draft to see if they both end up on the same show or not. They may not. But I think at some point that's what's going to happen, and that The Rock is going to be the new leader of the bloodline. And then maybe when that falls apart, I'm sure then everything will just dissolve after that. So we might have the bloodline storyline for maybe another year and a half, tops, maybe. But that's how I think it's going to happen, at least with that. Where does Gunther go after this? Chad Gable just turned heel. Where does he go after this? That's like the exciting things about WrestleMania, because it is a reset. And like I said, and as WWE was saying, it is a new era. We are fully. I mean, I think the stamp of WrestleMania, the first WrestleMania without Vince's input, fingerprints, nothing, I think does signify a new era. I really think it does. I think this is probably the first time that we feel Triple H has 100 complete % of control, creative control. We always said, okay, even though Vince stepped away, he's probably still somehow pulling the strings and getting his input in there, and probably still never felt like that he was fully separated. Because remember when the whole TKO thing happened, there started to be panic in the locker room again, like, oh my God, this is how Vince gets back in. This is how things just get destroyed again. But clearly that's not happening. Vince is never coming back to WWE. It's not going to happen. The next time, and I shouldn't even say that, and I don't even want to say this, but I'm going to. Even if the man passes away, I don't even think they're going to acknowledge it on TV. Unless, it's like 5-10 years from now, then they'll probably do it. But, let's say, again, I hate saying this, but let's say Vince, passes away in the summer. I don't see that whole thing in memory of Vince McMahon. I don't see them standing outside, on the ramp. I don't. And I know it's kind of hard to believe that that's what they would do. But, they're saying that they're trying to erase Vince. But you're never fully going to erase Vince from WWE. I haven't looked recently, but, when I first heard they were trying to erase him, I went onto the Peacock. I pulled up a couple of Raw episodes to see if they tried to scrub him out. I mean, especially a lot of the Raw shows, a lot of the wrestling in, okay. Sorry about that. That might seem a little bit funky. I'm going to try to splice it together, but my thing cut off because there was too much, a lot of space was taken up. But, just to finish out the thought I was just saying, it was just like, that this is really the beginning of a new era with the end of Roman's reign, with Cody coming in, ending a Seth, and just the fact that Vince is fully out of the picture. So it is an exciting time for WWE, an exciting time for wrestling, just to see where things were going. The return of CM Punk, you got Jay Cargill, you have Logan Paul into the mix. Apparently he got The Rock back. So there's a lot of good and exciting things to look forward to, and what's going to happen until next year's WrestleMania, because that's what we're looking for, right? This is what now you're building. Now you're building to your next WrestleMania. So what's going to happen at SummerSlam? What's going to happen at Survivor Series? What's going to happen at their other events? Who's going to be the winner of the Royal Rumble? Now that Cody finished it, I think we're guaranteed now to get a fresh face to win the 2025 Royal Rumble, which sounds so weird to say 2025 Royal Rumble. It's crazy. But I'm going to end on this. The whole thing with CM Punk and AEW. And I know I haven't really done any kind of video on AEW in a long time, and I kept saying I was going to do a video on the state of AEW. But AEW is just atrocious right now. It just really is. And this whole thing with the CM Punk video and the Will Ospreay thing, it just doesn't make them look good at all. Now, I will say this with CM Punk. There probably is still some immaturity in CM Punk. When he was telling RA, well, I didn't hit anybody, and I choked him a little bit. I mean, come on. That's still not, acceptable what to do. I don't know, I didn't hear CM Punk's full version, so I don't know if he ever denied that he was the first one to put his hands on Jack Perry. I don't know. But clearly from the video that we saw, CM Punk was the physical aggressor first. He grabbed him first. I don't know what Perry may have said to him. There was no sound. And then clearly afterwards, he turned to Tony Khan and said something. Now, Tony Khan with the whole thing, fear for my life and all that kind of stuff, that just sounds like a bunch of bullshit and just being a crybaby. But the point that you wanted to air it because of the interview that he did, is ridiculous. And them trying to use it as part of a storyline with the Young Bucks and FTR was just a cover story and excuse for them to play this video. Clearly everybody acted like an idiot in that moment. But it just kind of goes to show you that maybe some of that stench that was on CM Punk hasn't fully left him. Now he's on his P's and Q's right now with WWE. You know what? Probably because he has to be. Because now I don't know his financial situation. You know, it's always been said that he's been very smart with his money. So I'm sure he's working right now because he wants to, not because he has to. But the fact that he wants to work, he needs to behave himself, because if he fucks up with WWE, where's he going to go? TNA? Really? You know, he can't. The only other place he can go is New Japan. Can't go to Ring of Honor. Who owns Ring of Honor now? Or he'll probably just go back and just sit on his couch again. But if Punk wants to have at least a couple of years run in WWE, you know, another, you know, I mean, Punk could probably go another 2 or 3 years. And if he wants that to happen, he needs to behave himself. And it seems like he's made peace with everybody. I will agree with him on the fact that I do not think AEW is in the business to make money. I 110% agree with that, because you look how WWE has built themselves. And I know WWE has, you know, a 30-year head start on AEW. But listen to some of the old podcasts of Bruce Pritchard, and you'll hear him talk about, you know, how do we get our guys seen? How do we get our guys out there? Whether they were guest starring on a TV show, guest starring on a movie, going on a talk show. You don't see that with AEW. I don't see AEW trying to get their people on anything. Okay? Now, back in the day, there was a little bit more of a selection with like late night TV. You know, is really not that way anymore. You know, like, so before you had David Letterman, I think after Letterman, I can't remember the guy's name, but he did the Late Late Show. Craig something, I can't think of his name. You know, on Channel 4, you know, you had the Tonight Show with Jay Leno. Then you had Conan and Bryan after that. And I think Last Call with Carson Daly, I think, came on after that. You know, so you kind of had like those lesser talk shows that maybe the people who you didn't really know kind of went on there. But my point is that, why don't I see you trying to get Darby Allin? How come I don't see you trying to get Swerve Strickland or somebody on a talk show? How come you don't see them guest starring on something? How come you don't have them go into some kind of college event or whatever? You know, you're not putting your people out there to get that exposure. You're just staying in your little bubble. I don't see where you're trying to elevate your stars to the next level, because nobody in AEW feels like a big deal. And I use this example with Jade Cargill. She was boring as fuck in AEW. I couldn't stand her. There's nothing exciting about her. She's in WWE now. Her entrance alone gives you goosebumps, like badass. And to me, she's a star already. And this is why she left AEW. Because she said they gave her a very nice offer to stay. But the platform between them and WWE is completely different. And she wants to be a star. And WWE will push her to be the star. AEW is not working to do that. AEW has a bloated fucking roster. And as you've heard, they started letting people go. Now, they're letting people that you've never heard of go, or people who may have been there from the very beginning go. But think about some of the big people that they got from WWE that they should have, that used to help catapult them. And nothing has happened. Daniel Bryan, you know, as much as I like him, is always hurt. Adam Cole is always hurt. What have they done with Keith Lee? Andrade went back to fucking WWE. You know, Jericho and Moxley, you know, there's nothing exciting about AEW. And AEW is just treading water. And, you know, listening to like Eric Bischoff, yeah, it does sound like just a rich spoiled kid who's using daddy's money for a fucking hobby. That's what it is. I just don't see or feel how they're trying to elevate their business. I just don't see it. There's some of their storylines don't make sense. They interchange everybody so quickly. Like, okay, why is this person feuding with this? But none of it makes sense. A lot of it doesn't make sense. Some of it does, some of it doesn't. And maybe they may have one or two good storylines. MJF is not there anymore, and you feel that MJF is not there right now. And then the thing with Will Ospreay. The thing with Triple H and grinding on the boss's daughter. That whole line with the boss's daughter, that is so played out. I mean, enough with that already. I mean, Triple H has been hearing that for the last 20 plus years. Yes, for those of you who do not know, Stephanie and Triple H have been together for 20 plus years. They've been married for 21. They got married in 2003. It's 2024. Now, the actual year they got together, I don't recall. I don't recall if it was 98 or 99. I don't recall. Because I think by the time China was gone, was about late 2001 or 2002. So I don't officially remember when they got together and when China found out. But they've been together for fucking years. So for 20 plus years, he's been hearing that stuff. And to hear somebody say it now at this stage, it just sounds like you have nothing else to hit the person with. Now, I do agree with most people that there is probably a high chance that Triple H would not be in a position that he is in now had he not married the boss's daughter. That is correct. If he hadn't, maybe Shane McMahon would be running things right now. Maybe. Maybe Triple H would have run it anyway. Politics is his way to do it anyway. Maybe. But maybe he wouldn't sort of have the reign that he has now. Or he probably would have felt comfortable going back at Vince if Vince tried to do something or he disagreed with something. But it was a childish comment that Ospreay made. And it made him look ridiculous, immature. It made him look foolish. Triple H did not mention him by name. And what Triple H said, I don't think was offensive. I don't think there's anything wrong with you wanting a lighter schedule or that works for you. Things are different, times have changed. I mean, I don't know how many times I've had this conversation with my old boss or with my mother about how, you're young, have it easy and all that kind of stuff. Times are different than when you were a kid. So times were different when Triple H came up. I've heard Bubba Ray say it, that the issue with the territories of everything being gone is that the younger generation doesn't pay their dues. That's not always fair to say, because the younger generation can pay their dues in a different way. Maybe not the same way that you guys did. So whereas our grandfathers may have had to, plow the fields, whereas now we can get on the John Deere and ride it and cut the grass, they couldn't do that. But that doesn't mean that there's not some 18, 19, 20, 22-year-old kid who's working on a farm right now who may have hopped onto the John Deere, but now after that has to go milk the cows or whatever, get up at 4 or 5 a.m. The technology may be there where he's not breaking his back, maybe like his father and grandfather did, but it doesn't mean that he's not working hard and not getting paid shit money from his family or whoever to do what they're doing. I mean, I felt like I've paid dues. I mean, did I do it how my father and my mother did it? No. But, Same thing, my grandparents gave me an allowance. I got $7 a week. I had to vacuum, take the garbage out, do the dishes, feed the dogs and groom the dogs, sometimes wash my grandfather's car. If he had something that had to be painted, he had to paint the garage door or paint some wall into the house or help him fix the plumbing or help him fix the heat or whatever. And I would get $7 for it. Then when I worked on a golf course, I wasn't a caddy, but I worked the driving range and the bag room and all that kind of stuff. I worked a lot of dead-end jobs. I even washed dishes for a little while. I stuffed envelopes for a little while because I needed a job and I needed money, and I took whatever, came my way. And, now I'm making six figures, and I never thought I would be making six figures, but I am. And, trust me, do you think I would be like some of these other kids that are like 10 years younger than me that got to six figures, at 25? I mean, a friend of mine was making six figures at 26. It didn't happen for me until I was like 35. So I disagree with Triple H in that realm that he may not want to do the grind. And like I said, he may have been doing the grind his own way. I mean, Will Ospreay has been on the independent circuit for a long time. And that in itself is a hustle. So I don't think Triple H was immature what he said. Maybe a little unfair. But Ospreay's response to it was childish. And I think people need to stop with that tired line of Triple H wouldn't be where he's at because he slept with the boss's daughter. You gotta get, people, you gotta get over that shit. I mean, that is so long ago. Get over it. And yeah, you know what? Triple H took a lot of flack for it. And I'm not denying. I mean, Triple H still might have been a 14-time champion without being married to Stephanie. But I think it's fair to challenge, would he be running things like he is now? It's possible he still would have been a 14-time champion. Maybe not 14, maybe a 10-time champion. I don't know. I still think he would have been highly successful. But if you want to attack the fact that he wouldn't have this position, that is fair to say, or to speculate. That is fair. But I think when you put everything in that box, that he wouldn't have anything, he wouldn't have gotten any of the accomplishments, I think is tired and played out. So, but again, that whole scenario just made AEW look pathetic and weak. And the funny thing is now you have people who are dying to get out of WWE to run to AEW now want to get out of AEW and run back to WWE. Andrade just did it. Cody did it. Who's going to be behind him? I was wondering if Jon Moxley would ever go back because he left because of creative reasons. Vince isn't there anymore. Could Jon Moxley go back? I don't see Jericho going back. I do think there are some people that Triple H is interested in from AEW. And if he ever got the opportunity, I think he would pick up some people. Would he ever take Adam Cole back? Absolutely. I think Adam Cole left WWE because he felt when he got to the main roster, it was going to be the way it's been for so many people. Look at Fandango, look at Taylor Breeze, look at The Ascension, look at Chad Gable, look at the shit Sami Zayn had to go through before he actually got his chance. Kevin Owens was told he would never get to the main roster. NXT has not been treated. Look what happened with Karrion Kross. Look what happened to Keith Lee. A lot of NXT talent has not been treated fairly under Vince McMahon. And now it looks like now Triple H is trying to do something with like Indy Hartwell. It looks like he's trying to do something now with more of his NXT people. Because he has quite a few up there. And I think now he's going to try to do something with them. Now that like WrestleMania is out of the way, I think we're going to see more of NXT people be a little bit more integral in storylines. But that's it for everything. Hopefully you enjoyed. Again, I'm gonna try to splice this one with the other video I just did. So hopefully it's not too messed up. It's my first time doing it. But let's see where these things go. Let's see where Cody's thing goes. Let's see where Damien Priest thing goes. Let's see where this bloodline story goes. But I think Roman's going to be out for a while. I think Seth and Becky are off healing up, which they need it, especially Seth. I think he should be healing up. By the way, so Sheamus came back, and everybody is like killing Sheamus online because he's out of shape. In fairness, Sheamus has shoulder and I believe some neck issues. You know, he couldn't lift the way that he wanted to. So I'm quite sure over time we'll see him back in his normal shape. So let's not body shame. But that's it for everything. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys enjoy WrestleMania. And let's enjoy this ride that we're all going to be on and see what happens. It's an exciting time to see where things go. It really truly is, because Triple H seems to be more in tune with the fans and is willing to listen to the fans. And I can tell you right now, if Vince was still in control, absolutely we would have gotten Rock and Roman, and they would have been booed out of the building because everybody was going to want Cody Rhodes. It was going to be Daniel Bryan all over again. If they stuck with it, and if Vince was there, they would have stuck with it. Maybe not. Maybe Vince would have listened to The Rock and changed gears. Maybe. I'm 100% sold on that. But we know that Triple H would, and has. So, there you go. So have a good night, and I'll be back after the draft, and we'll speak about that.